Hello, ladies and gentlemen and ladies, and welcome to another episode of your favorite sports podcast from the ground up. Thank you again for once again for joining me. We have a whole lot of stuff to talk about, a whole lot of stuff to get into. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So the first few things that I wanted to talk about, we are about 2 weeks away from the playoffs. So seedings and things are kind of getting set in stone here, or some teams are making their final push towards the playoffs or towards the play-in or to get a higher seeding. So it's a lot of discussion going on right now about a lot of different things. So the first thing I want to talk about is the resurgence of the New York Knicks. It's been a long time since there's been anything positive to say about the New York Knicks in so many words. They've kind of been at the bottom of the barrel for the latter part of, I think it was 14, maybe 15 years, something along those lines. But needless to say, they have not been very good. And right now they're playing extremely well. Julius Erving looks like a completely different player. Like he looks like an all-star. He looks like somebody that's in the top in the league right now. And Julius Erving has been around a little bit, but he's finally getting his just due. I feel like he's finally in the proper situation to really maximize his game and show what he can do, which is a big part of their success is because he's been playing so well. So I think it's good for the NBA for sure because the Knicks are a historic franchise. One of the most historic franchise. They play in New York City, which speaks for itself. They play at Madison Square Garden, which also speaks for itself. Both of those are historic things there. So I mean, it's definitely a good thing for the league that the New York Knicks are doing well and are playing well. Now, let's not get crazy at the same time because I've seen a lot of people talking about they have an opportunity to beat the Brooklyn Nets. Like, let's not get stupid, guys. Like, it's a fun story. Like, it's nice, it's cute, but at the end of the day, like there's nothing they're gonna be able to do with the Brooklyn Nets in a 7-game series. Like let's keep it in perspective here. Like I said, it's fun to watch them. It's exciting to see that they're back in playoff contention, which they will be officially in the. I think they already officially are in the playoffs. I'm not sure what their seeding is going to be just yet, just because again we do have 2 weeks in the season left. But they will be in the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. So shout out to them. Now, how far they go, it all depends on who they play in matchups and things of that nature, which we'll discover a little bit more as we get along down the line. But shout out to the New York Knicks. Moving along, going to the Milwaukee Bucks. They recently just played the Brooklyn Nets twice and beat them both times. The first game was an incredible game. KD and Giannis went back and forth. KD had 42, I believe. Giannis had 49 in that game, and it was a really, really good game. Really, really tough. The Bucks played the Nets really, really well in the first game, and they played them really, really well in the second game as well. Giannis didn't have to do as much. I believe he had 30 something around those kind of stats there, but they showed what you have to do to beat Brooklyn. But the only thing with that is that a lot of things went right for the Milwaukee Bucks in those games where they played against Brooklyn. Kyrie in the second game didn't shoot particularly well, so that helps. And the onus kind of fell on KD, and they also didn't have James Harden as well. And there were still close games. So that's not to say that they're a sure shot to beat the Brooklyn Nets either, but I do believe that they can give them competition and give them a run for their money as far as being at least competitive, because most teams in the East are not going to be competitive with the Brooklyn Nets. They have too much firepower for just about any team in the league. So if they're clicking, there's not a lot of teams that can really compete with them. But Milwaukee still can make things interesting because they do have Giannis and they do have depth. They do have great outside shooting, good interior presence. And that's the ladder of pretty much what's going to take it if you're going to beat the Brooklyn Nets is those things. And what also helps them as well is that Brooklyn's interior defense sucks still. Even without their offensive firepower, they're not a great defensive team. So anybody's going to be able to score against them. The problem is stopping them from scoring because they have 3 of the top scorers in the league on one team. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. To see if they end up matching up against each other. I think that'll be a really good series. I think if Giannis wants to take that next step to elevate himself to that next level of elite players and not just be considered very good, then beating the Brooklyn Nets puts him in that stratosphere. So we'll see what happens. Again, the East is looking looking alive pretty much. It's looking competitive. It's not a sure shot as far as like who's gonna get there, even with the Brooklyn Nets included. I still think they have a lot of competition, and with them not having great interior defense, I feel like anybody could still beat them, possibly. But I mean, the chances are still slim to none because, again, they have 3 of the top 10 scorers in the league. So we just kind of, I guess, I would have to see how it plays out. But moving along from there, I saw a topic the other day where they were talking about point guards, particularly Steph and Russell Westbrook, and someone proposed a question that said, should Steph be able to lead his team to the playoffs to be considered as good as Russ, or for us to revere him the way people revere Russ? Because Russ did play with KD, but when KD left, Russ did win MVP. He did average a triple-double, and he still got the OKC Thunder to the playoffs. So I believe the consensus of the question more so was, if Steph does not do that, can we really consider him an elite player? I think to say if he doesn't lead his team to the playoffs, like he's not in an elite category, is foolish. I think it's silly to say that about somebody as great as Steph Curry. I don't understand how people can, people try to diminish Steph's greatness based off of the players that he's played with. Granted, he's had Klay Thompson, Draymond, KD, all that is fine and dandy, but he was also very successful without, more so KD, because we don't really put KD and Klay in the same class. So more so him playing with KD. He was still the same Steph without KD. Like, he still won 2 MVPs without KD. Like, he's still a 2-time unanimous MVP, like the first player to ever do that without KD. So to say that if he doesn't lead his team to the playoffs, that takes a hit to his legacy or diminishes his greatness, or it doesn't put him in the same class as Russell Westbrook, is silly to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Him and Russ aren't the same kind of player. Steph is not I'm going to get 20 rebounds, 20 assists, and 20 points kind of guy. Steph is more so of, I'm going to score this amount of points. He can still get you a lot of assists, but he's not really a rebounding point guard. He's not really this defensive stopper where he can get you a ton of steals. That's not his game, so it's not really fair to compare them. And I still would take Steph over Russ any day of the week. And I love Russ. This is a wild commercial in the back of me, but anyway, I love Russ. I'm a big fan of Russ. I respect the hell out of Russ, but just because Russ averages triple doubles doesn't put him in this elite. I mean, it puts him in elite company because nobody's really ever done that consistently like he has. But as far as like in the top of the top point guards, like, to me, just averaging a triple double doesn't just put you in this untouchable class like people would like to think. Like, I believe that Russ, like I said, is a great player. I believe that there should be a lot more respect on Russ's name. I do believe that he's going to be a Hall of Famer. That he is in the conversation per se about top point guards, but I wouldn't put him over Steph just because he's averaging triple doubles. Like, Russ is a great player. Steph is a great player and a proven winner. Like, there's quite the difference between the two. So even if Steph, for whatever reason, I mean, I think they're pretty close as far as in the running to make the playoffs or at least make the play-in. I still think I still think Steph is going to be Steph, and he's still going to be great whether they make the playoffs this year or not. I think he's proven a lot without having KD, obviously, without having Klay, with having Draymond kind of not being as elite as he used to be, and playing with a bunch of new players and acclimating a bunch of moving pieces in their system. I think he deserves more credit for that. So yeah, I think that whole scenario is silly. Like, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But, these sports commentators nowadays be reaching for straws with these stories, in my personal opinion. The next topic I wanted to kind of discuss just briefly is Julius Erving basically said that LeBron wouldn't be in his top teams or top players or something along those lines. I think he said top teams because he is the reason for the super team. Okay, I'll say this. As much as I am an adamant LeBron fan, everybody knows this. I'm realistic and I'm honest. At least I like to think so. As it pertains to him and his career and accomplishments and things of that nature. But this narrative of he created super teams and he's the only one that's played on a team full of all-stars is ridiculous. And to have that as a reason to leave him off a top 10 player or top 5, top 3 player is utterly ridiculous. Like, in the same breath, like, we have to get to a point where the OGs in the game are able to acknowledge the young guns in the game or the generation behind them without it being like this weird, like, vindictive, almost hating energy. Like, a lot of the OGs are haters. Like, they don't like the new generation, the generation behind them. They think, their era is the best era, which you're supposed to. If you play in a certain era, you're gonna think that, and I don't have an issue with that. But it's I believe I spoke about this before with Shaq and how he critiques players. There's a borderline, there's a line between criticism and hating, and I feel like some of the OGs of the game backflip over that line and go straight into hating and try to disguise it as criticism. Like, if you wish you had the opportunity to play with 2 of your best friends and went to championships, just say that. Like, that's what it boils down to, because all this, back in my day, we didn't play with each other. We played against each other. Okay, that's fine. And it's a bunch of y'all with no championships and didn't make the Hall of Fame. So what did that get you? Like, y'all having all of that pride and wanting to lead the team by yourself, like, that's cool. But what did you get out of that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people still don't consider you one of the greatest of all time, regardless of how LeBron James won his championships. He won his championships, and he was the Finals MVP in all of those championship runs. He's top 3. If he's not in your top 3, we shouldn't discuss basketball, and that goes for Hall of Fame or not Hall of, I don't know. Yeah, Julius Erving is a Hall of Famer. Excuse me. That goes for Hall of Famers like Julius Erving and OGs in the game like Julius Erving. That goes for you too. Like, he's still a 4-time champion. He's still a 4-time MVP. He's still one of the top 3 scorers in the league. He's still one of the top 3 players in the league. Where you rank him 1 through 3 is up to you. But to use the fact that he played with a super team as a reason not to put him in your top 10 or top 20 or whatever the case may be is retarded, and it will never make any sense to me. Like, at this point, all the players outside of the 90s and early 2000s era played with the super team. So are they not top 5, top 10 players? Like, is Kobe not that either? Even though they didn't consider him and Shaq a super team at the time, like, who the hell was beating them when they were on top? But he's still gonna be in it. Like, come on. Like, what are we? Why is this even still a discussion? I'll never understand it. But yeah, that was dumb. He could have kept that, honestly, truly, and that's all I'll say about that. But before we wrap this episode up, I want to propose a question to my From the Ground Up followers and listeners. Do you think that Carmelo Anthony is a Hall of Famer? The reason I bring this up because recently, a few days ago, Carmelo Anthony officially is one of the top 10 scorers in the league of, like, all time in history. He surpassed, I forget the guy's name, so forgive me, but he surpassed him and became the 10th all-time leading scorer, which is great, because, I mean, if you know Melo, then you know he can score with the best of them. But I don't think Melo is a Hall of Famer. I have people around me that think he is. Myself, personally, I don't. So I want y'all to tell me what you think. Do you think Carmelo Anthony is a Hall of Famer? If so, why? And on the next episode, I'll tell y'all why I don't think Carmelo Anthony is a Hall of Famer. But till we get there, that wraps up this week's episode of From the Ground Up. I actually have more episodes coming up for y'all, so I'll probably be releasing another episode in the next like 2 days or something like that. So be on the lookout for that. I have a really special guest coming on that episode, so I'm really, really excited about that. So make sure you guys tune in. And yes, that's all I have as of right now. Make sure y'all keep supporting. Make sure y'all keep commenting, sharing, subscribing, all of those things. Make sure if you're not able to catch the episode on Facebook or Instagram, to go to YouTube, because I do post there as well, and I am trying to build my followers there as well. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, man, the playoffs are underway. We got a whole lot of stuff to talk about, a whole lot of stuff to get into. Thank y'all so much for all the support and all the love, and I'll see y'all next time.